Okay, so today is the final seminar of 4 seminars that were given out this month during the month of March on Wednesdays. It was the guidance department's way of trying to reach out to students in a more of a classroom manner than we've been able to do this year. Generally, in the past, we go into English classes and do different activities with students, but because of the pandemic and the way our schedule has worked this year, we have not been able to get into the classroom like we normally would. So we are using these Wednesdays to provide presentations and record them so that we can offer them to our students. So what we'll be covering today, of course, always a quick welcome. I'll talk about what Naviance is. Most folks have heard of Naviance. The counselors talk about this a lot. It's also known or had been known in the past as Family Connection. So you could have heard both words. It's the same website and program or platform used for students. Naviance is something available to students in all of high school. And so today we'll talk about what that is, how to log into it, and how to use it as a tool for career exploration as well as college exploration. And I'll also talk about how I use Naviance for the college admissions process. So this presentation is really geared towards juniors who are starting to embark on their college search. A lot of students start researching colleges a bit in the spring of their junior year. They usually sign up to take an SAT in the spring or summer, so they can take a second one in the fall. A lot of times juniors will do some college visits over the summer just to really get started and thinking about where they might want to end up on their next journey after high school. So this is a great tool to use for that. This presentation, I think, can be helpful to students really in any grade level. It's always good to try to plan ahead and know what's coming for you. And the tools that I share today are tools that can be used over and over again. So if you choose to use one of the career exploration tools today, you could use the same tool and try the same inventory again in a few months to see if anything has changed. So this is a great platform available to our students, and I just want to make sure students know how to use it. As a reminder, these are your guidance counselors, Mrs. LaRoche and Mrs. Nasuti, and I'm happy to say Mrs. Nasuti is joining us back full-time on Monday. So our guidance department will be back in swing with fully staffed, so that's exciting. Currently, I work with students in grades 11 and 12, and Mrs. Nasuti works with students in grades 9 and 10. And with regards to the information we covered today, I think it's important that juniors know that I will continue to be your school counselor into senior year. I worked with you last year, this year, next year, so I think that puts me in a good position to really help you with your college admissions process and helping you with recommendations, and I write a recommendation. So next year, I will work with students who are in grades 10 and 12, so current freshmen and juniors, and Mrs. Nasuti will work with students in grades 9 and 11. That is our plan for next year. So like I said before, Naviance has also been referred to in the past as Family Connection. And I think that's because it's a way to connect the school to the family or the counselor to the family when we're embarking on the college admissions process. Certainly where a student goes to college and their plans for the future is a family decision. But as your school counselor, I support you in that process. I help you navigate that process. And having done it now for 2 years, I think I have certainly some advice I can offer you. Also, just to give you a little information about my work history, I did work in admissions for 3 years at Northeastern University. So I do have in the back of my mind kind of what the other side of things look like when it comes to the college admissions process in terms of what admissions counselors are looking at and how they're reading applications. So that combined experience can help me help you navigate through this process next year. So Naviance is a website that's also mobile friendly, which is really helpful to students. A lot of times I'll have a student in my office and they want to look something up on Naviance, and it's really easy now to access from your cell phone. It's used for both college and career planning. You can research careers and take different career assessments, as well as use some different tools to find a good fit when it comes to colleges. I'm going to show you a few of my favorite tools that are available on Naviance, how to access them and how to use them. As I said, if we were in the regular classroom, I'd actually have you complete the inventory or try out using the tools that I'm going to talk about. But for today, I'll show you how to find them. They're really easy to use. And on your own, you can go ahead and start using some of those tools and taking some of those assessments to help you make some educated decisions about your future. It's also a way, as a counselor of seniors, that I post information about college visits. So I do use Naviance to get information out to students regarding mostly around the college visits. Other than that, I use Google Classroom or email to give you updates throughout your senior year during the application season. But something I do want to mention is that we do have representatives from a variety of colleges and universities that schedule times with me to come to our school to meet with small groups of students who might be interested in that college or university. I think you're allowed up to 5 visits because generally it does take you out of class. Typically, the way this works is the representative will come to our building, and at a certain time, I'll advertise that to you through Naviance. You actually sign up to attend through Naviance, but you could miss some class time to be meeting with the admissions representative. So we only allow you to do that 5 times, and you are responsible for any work that is missed. And we usually meet in the library, and it's nice. There's usually only at most 8 students with an admissions representative. So you get a lot of personalized information. The representative gets to know you. You sign something that you attended, so it shows interest. And a lot of times, the representative who comes to our school is the actual counselor who reads the applications from West Boylston. So it's nice to have that face to face connection. If you know of some colleges you might be applying to, let me know early on, like late summer, early fall, and I can try to see if I can get representatives from those schools to come to West Boylston for a visit. I generally do a lot of the Massachusetts and New England schools, but certainly if there was a strong interest from someone, and you were able to tell me early enough, I could certainly try to schedule that. So I post those on Naviance. I'll show you where when I switch my screen to a demonstration. And like I said, you do sign up for those through Naviance. We also post information. Oh, let me back up 1 second about the college visits because I don't know yet what that will look like for next year because I know we do have juniors tuning in right now. This past year, all of those visits were virtual, so I held them on Wednesdays, and students would attend them through a Zoom call, but again, face to face and only a few students at a time, so it was still personalized. I don't know yet what that will look like for this upcoming fall of 2022, if they will continue to be virtual, if we'll be able to have representatives in school, or if it will be a mix of both. Perhaps with the virtual piece, it opens up opportunities to meet with representatives, across the country at colleges a little bit more far away. So that is yet to come, and I will provide more information on that once I know. Naviance also has a whole bunch of information actually on scholarships. As we learn about scholarships, whether they're local or more national, we post them on Naviance for students to view. You can do a filter to kind of see what scholarships might best match who you are. It connects you to websites, and you can go ahead and apply for those scholarships through the scholarship website. So you do not apply for scholarships through Naviance, but it's just kind of a one-stop shopping for a bunch of different scholarship opportunities. And then you would be directed to the website to actually do that application. As far as logging into Naviance, it's pretty easy. If you're a junior, you should have your login information from me by now in your folder with directions on how to do that. So most students in grades 10 through 12 at this point have login information for Naviance. And if you can't remember how to log in, it's most likely that your username is your school email. And if you can't remember your password, just click the forgot password option when you're going to log in, and you'll receive an email from Naviance to reset that password. I will caution you that sometimes that email goes to your spam in your school email, so make sure you check your spam. But we had several students be able to access their passwords this way, so I do know that that works. Once you log in, you select that you're a student user, and then oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. Once you go to the website, you select your student user, and that's where you put in your username and password. If you ever have trouble logging on, just contact your counselor and we can help you figure that out. We can always reset your password on our end. But it's helpful if you can try to go ahead and use that forgot password option if you need it. If you've never logged on to Naviance, then we can provide you with an activation code so you can register and create your account. Same for parents. If you don't have login information at this time and you'd like your own account, then contact me and I can get you your activation information for that. It might be easier just to see if your student will allow you to know their username and password so that you're seeing the same information that they're seeing. I think sometimes I find that that's a better way to assist your student and kind of know what's going on. So let's talk a little bit about using Naviance for career exploration. So these are good tools to use whether you're an 8th grader through a senior. And you can take different quizzes and inventories through Naviance to come up with a list of careers that might be a good fit for you based on a whole variety of things, from subjects you are really good at, you enjoy, from your interests, from activities you like. So it helps you kind of narrow down things that might be a good fit for you. I'm going to show you 3 different tools today that you can use to start exploring different careers. Like I said, you can take these inventories over and over again as many times as you want and kind of see if you continue to come up with the same clusters of careers that might be a good fit for you, or if it starts to change a little bit. It just kind of helps you narrow things down. And I think it's good to do this prior to college. Certainly most students will change their major at least once they're in college. And many adults do change their careers, later in life. That's always okay. It's never like you have to leave West Boylston knowing exactly what you want to do. But if you're able to find some areas that you're interested in, you'll find a better fit for you for college, so that you hopefully end up in a career that you're good at and that you like to do. That's always my goal for students. So the 3 things I'm going to show you today are the Career Cluster Finder, which will help you learn career clusters that might be a good match for you. So it's not going to say, oh, you should be a teacher or you should be an engineer. It's going to more give you a broader category of types of careers you might like. And once you know the clusters that are a good match for you, you can start researching the specific careers under that cluster. I'll also show you how to access the Career Interest Profiler. This tool can take about 15 minutes to complete. There's 180 questions about work activities that people do at their jobs. It's a whole range, and you actually rate whether or not those are activities you'd like to do. And at the end of those 180 questions, it would give you a report of careers you might like that include the activities that you listed as things that you would like to do. And then Do What You Are is always a favorite. This is more of a personality test. This is also one that takes about 15 minutes to complete, but it helps you just learn more about yourself. It also helps you understand how others see you and things, maybe how you learn best, the types of jobs that might be a good fit for your personality. You might learn that you're somebody who is an extrovert, who likes to talk to others, who enjoys socializing, who enjoys working with people and always being around people. And so you might find that a job that's good for you, might be being a manager or a counselor, where you enjoy that interaction. You might find out that you're more of an independent worker and an extrovert at the same time. So you might want to find a job where you can work independently, but you're still reporting in with a team. So it's just a good way to learn a little bit about who you are and kind of dive deeper into your personality. And this tends to be one of the quizzes or inventories that students enjoy doing best. So I'm going to actually exit out of my presentation right now and show you Naviance. So this is just a demonstration of Naviance. This is not an actual student. This is a demonstration made for me so I could share it with students. So if you're a junior and you log on to Naviance, this is what you're going to see. This is the home page. There's not a ton on here right now. It's not really until senior year that I start using this message area, and this will be reminders of things that I need you to do related to college applications. Under what's new when you're a senior, this is where the different visits that I talked about earlier would be listed. So it might say University of New Hampshire, coming to West Boylston on October 10th at 9 o'clock. And there'd be a button for you to register if you're interested in participating in that. So it's important to be checking this, certainly in the fall of senior year, mostly to see the upcoming visits. I I am cognizant that as a student right now, there are so many different platforms that you have to log on to and check, especially in this age where we've been doing a lot of remote learning and hybrid learning. So please know that I also am pretty good about emailing you ahead of time of visits that are coming for the following week to prompt you to log on to Naviance and register if you're interested. So I do try to make sure I'm getting information out to seniors in the fall in multiple ways, because I do know you're also getting a lot of emails and then you have to check Naviance and then maybe you need to check your Common App. So there's definitely a lot going on. So I do a lot to try to remind students of what's up and coming. So once you're here, if we're talking about the career exploration, the easiest way to access the tools that I mentioned would just be to pop on the career tab right here. Um, there's a homepage for careers I'm thinking about. So as you've done some of these interest inventories and read about careers, you always have the option to favorite a certain career that you liked. And then you can always come back to this careers I'm thinking about page, and it would list all the careers that you thought were interesting to you from what you've researched. I think the easiest thing to do is to head down here to the Explore Careers and Interests to access the tools that I mentioned in the last slide. Before I do that, I will just mention Road Trip Nation. This is a neat thing to go on to maybe once you've narrowed down some careers that you're interested in, because they're interviews of people working at a variety of places doing a million different jobs, and they just talk about what their path was to get to where they're at, what they liked doing as a high school student, where they went to college, or what they did after high school, and how they landed the job that they're in now. So those are some short videos, but kind of cool to watch, especially once you've thought about some jobs that you might be interested in or careers. So we're going to head down here to Explore Careers and Interests. Here are the 3 different tools that I had mentioned. So again, real easy. If you go to Career Cluster Finder, you would just click on that. And let's hope I didn't just get logged out right in the middle of my presentation. I apologize. It looks like I did. So I'm just going to log back in real quick. I must have talked too long and it did log me out. So I'll get right back on that. Okay. All right. So careers and interests, Career Cluster Finder. So this is a way that they'll help match career clusters based on your interests and your personal qualities. In this inventory or quiz, it's nothing that's graded. There's no right or wrong answers, but you're asked a series of questions having to do with activities you enjoy doing or might see yourself doing in the future, having to do on your personal qualities. What are characteristics that best describe who you are? And then they'll also ask you what school subjects you enjoy in school and what pieces of those subjects. Are you someone that really enjoys science and enjoys doing hands-on labs? Are you someone who enjoys writing poetry in English class? So you'll be asked all these questions, and then you'll get a list of the top clusters that are likely to be a good match for you. And by what I mean by clusters is right here. So you can see that this is a way just to group a bunch of careers under a certain umbrella. So these are kind of umbrellas of different careers. So once you complete this inventory, it will show you your top 4 to 5 clusters that might be the best fit for you. So you might find that health sciences came up because you've expressed an interest in the sciences, or maybe you're interested in computers and that type of technology work, so information technology comes up, or human services, more of the helping profession. So you'll see what clusters are best for you. Once you know your top clusters based on that inventory, you can go ahead and click on it. And it gives you kind of a sense of, what's the outlook for people that, what's the employment outlook? Are there jobs available in this particular cluster? What are good classes that you should be taking both in high school and post-high school? The good news about West Boylston is our curriculum is college preparatory. So we do a good job in making sure you have the things that colleges want to see on your transcript before you graduate. They have related occupations that you can always click on any of these to get more information, things you might consider majoring in college. So it gives you a ton of information about every cluster. So that's one of the tools I mentioned. Let's take a look at the other ones. Then we have the Career Interest Profiler. And this is where it lists a bunch of different activities that different people do at their jobs, and you check off whether or not you feel that's an activity that you would like to do. And at the end, it gives you a report on what types of careers or clusters, again, might be a good fit for you. So it's good to do more than one inventory or tool just to see if your answers tend to stay the same or if it varies. That would give you a lot of good information about maybe what you might want to think about for goals or for your future. And then the last one, this is the personality test. Again, takes about 15 minutes. But at the end, not only do you find careers that might be a good fit for you, you also find out what type of learning environment's best for you, how you learn best. Are you more a visual learner where you need to see the information, or do you do really well as an auditory learner where you hear the information? It talks about ways that might be helpful for you to study based on how you answered the questions. And it just helps you kind of understand more about you and gives you some perspective into how other people understand who you are. So again, this is always a favorite, and I think it gives you a ton of information, including career interests, but also little tips that are helpful to know about you now. Maybe you never thought that for you, listening to music while you study is actually helpful, where for someone else, that might not be so helpful. So that's kind of a neat one to take. So those are the three career tools that I really like and that I tend to use with students. And like I said, the Do What You Are is very popular. But you can always also just search careers by going to Explore. You might know a career that you're thinking about. You can just type it in, hit go. It's going to give you some more specific things that come up under teacher. When you put that in or whatever career you put in, maybe you want to be a computer science teacher, and it's going to tell you a little bit more information about being a computer science teacher. So there's lots of ways that are very accessible to be exploring careers. So I'm just going to head back to my presentation. And the next thing I'm going to share with you is some information about researching for college. So you can kind of do both at the same time. We tend to work with 9th and 10th graders around the career exploration and then start the college exploration in junior year, usually at this time, the spring of junior year, but you can do any of these at any time. And two things I want to share with you that I think are really great tools I actually use with students when they're sitting in my office and trying to think about what colleges they should apply to, are Supermatch and Scattergrams. Supermatch is being able to put in a filter of what you're looking for in a school. Do you want to be in state or out of state? Do you want to be in an urban area or a rural area? What's the cost? Kind of what's the range you're looking at to spend on college? What size? You're looking for a larger school or a smaller school? And I'll show you all the filters. It's really cool. And then it will help you narrow down a match based on all these filters. Sometimes you get 100% match that they can find everything you're looking for in a college. And sometimes you get more, and it's more likely you get something within the 80 to 90% match that most of the things match to what you're looking for these schools, but maybe not everything. I also want to point out the scattergrams because this gives you really good information about students similar to you. In the scattergrams, you see data points for students from West Boylston that have applied to a school you're interested in the past few years, and you get a sense as to the profile of that student. You don't know who the student is, that's confidential, but you'll see what their average GPA and SAT score were, and if they were accepted, waitlisted, or denied entry to the college. That can kind of help you gauge how competitive you are for a college. And I always say it's good to have a good round number of colleges you're applying to. I usually recommend anywhere from 4 to 5. You want to have, certainly a safety school where you are, higher than the average GPA. You're very competitive for that school. You match everything they're looking for in terms of an applicant. It's likely that you're going to get accepted. Then you have your schools that you're right in the competitive range where it's probably likely you'll be accepted, but it could go either way. Maybe you're spot on with the average GPA that they're looking for. And then it's always good to have a reach school. Maybe there's a school you really dream about going to, but your SAT scores are a little bit lower than what they generally look for, or your GPA is a little bit lower. Doesn't mean you won't get in because after, they're looking at your GPA, they're also looking at your letters of recommendation, your resume of activities and things that you've been involved in, your essay. So they might look at your application and say, yeah, maybe their GPA isn't, in our higher competitive range. However, this is a student we want to have here on our campus because it's obvious that they're a leader. It's obvious they take initiative and they're creative, and they're a thinker. So you never know. But it is good kind of that safety school or reach school, and then a couple schools in the middle that you are definitely within that competitive range. So scattergrams can kind of help you decide that because it's a profile of students who have had the same education and somewhat similar background to you because they've come from West Boylston. So let's take a look at those. So I'm going to exit out of this again. Sorry for the back and forth. And so instead of going under the careers tab, we're going to go under the colleges tab. And just like the careers, as you go through and look at different colleges, you can always mark this heart as a favorite so that you can go back to them. When you're a senior, I'll talk to you about moving colleges from the I'm thinking about to the I'm applying to page. Once we have colleges on this page, I can see them on my end so that I know where to send your letters of recommendation and your transcript and things like that. We'll get into the specifics of that come senior year. That's not really something you need to be thinking about now. Certainly if you're not now if you're a freshman or sophomore, but not even if you're a junior. We'll get there. We'll do another presentation and I'll be meeting with you in the fall. But the way to kind of research with some of the college things is I think the easiest way is to go down to this Find Your Fit. And this is where, there's a lot of things that you can just look up a college and get information about it. Advanced college search, you might put in a couple things that you're looking for in a college, such as size or cost or average GPA. College events is where you can look up a college and see when they might be having an open house or an information session. But today I'm going to show you the super match because I really like that one. I think this is a great way to kind of narrow things down, especially for a student who's just really unsure of a college they want, but they might know some other things that they're looking for. And if you don't know what you're looking for in a college, this is a good place to, start to think about it. So here you go through each of these categories and put in what you're looking for. What type of location? So when I did this, I put in New England. That I was thinking as a student, I'm going to stay in New England. So I put in the New England states as my location. For academics, you'd mark what type of degree are you looking for. Usually at this point, you're thinking about your bachelor's degree. And so for majors, I put in biology and accounting. But you could put, you could choose anything. You could put acoustics, acting. They have all different majors listed, and you could write in what you wanted to study. For admission, this is where you would put in your GPA. So if you're a junior watching this, you have the folder I gave you that has your weighted GPA at the bottom of the transcript along with your class rank, but you would put your GPA in. If you have an SAT score, you can put that in. You could even plug in what you got on your PSAT just to see. I mean, this doesn't go to colleges. This is just to help narrow down schools that are within that range. You might put in your acceptance rate. So acceptance rate is definitely something important to look at. So mid-range is kind of this 51 to 75%. As you get lower, where the acceptance rate is lower, the more competitive the school is. So that's something to look at. You can put in things that you might want for student life. Is there a certain club or organization you're interested in? Is it important to you that they have sororities and fraternities? Do you want to make sure it's a place that offers studying abroad? I would definitely recommend you want it to be a place that offers some internships. That's a great way to get connected to different possible jobs after college as well. So you would go down here and check off the things that you'd like to see. What's important to you in terms of diversity? What characteristics do you want to see in an institution? Is it a 4-year? Do you care if it's public or private? Are you looking for places that have a high job placement rate or high retention rate? What kind of size are you looking for? What kind of housing are you looking to live on campus? And what's the average class size? So you can really put in very specific what you think is what you want to see. And then you can put in here, you can either talk about tuition and fees, or you can check off maximum total costs, which would be tuition, fees, room and board. It goes on. There's athletics, resources. And once you put all that in, you hit search, and you can see here with the things that I had put in so far as a demonstration that these are some schools. So I don't have any 100% matches. That doesn't always happen, but I do have a 91%. Here's Bryant University. Maybe that's a school I never even thought to look at, but why not? It has a lot of, 91% of the things that I said I was looking for in a college. So this is where I could learn a little bit about, what their average GPA is. You could click on to see photos, student spotlights. I could get a virtual tour. This is an approximate cost of tuition and fees. I will say that Naviance does a pretty good job of staying up to date with current information about colleges and universities. But once you find a college that you're really interested in, I would also recommend that you visit the specific college website. So I'd actually visit Bryant University's website just to make sure I am actually seeing the most current up to date information. But this Naviance is always a good start. So I think Supermatch is pretty cool because then it lists all these colleges. Here's some, something in the high 80s. Maybe I need to consider Quinnipiac University. Maybe that's something I hadn't thought of. Or maybe there's a college you always just happen to have on in mind and it shows up here. So that's a good indicator that that might be a good match for you. So that's a pretty good tool to use, especially when you're first starting your college search. And this might also help you narrow down what colleges to visit over the summer if you found some that seemed like they were a good match. The other thing I want to show you was the scattergrams because I think this is pretty neat. So I'm just going to look up. I went to Northeastern University, and that's where I was an admissions counselor. Certainly things have changed since I was there, but that's generally the college that I look up just as an example. I just had it on here. Northeastern. So you can see there's been the last couple of years 99 applications from West Boylston. So you pick a college. So maybe you just did the super match and you found a few colleges you liked. Go ahead and put them in the scattergram. And you can kind of see what the history is of students who have applied to West Boylston. So these are students who have applied to West Boylston, I think in the past, I'm sorry, not applied to West Boylston. These are students who have applied to Northeastern from West Boylston in the past 5 years. I think it goes back 5 years. The green checks indicate students who were accepted. And when you hang over one of the checks, it'll show you what that student's profile was, their average GPA and their average SAT score. The purple dots are students who were waitlisted, and the red X's are students who were denied admission. So it's interesting, right? Because there's some green checks down here of students who are accepted with maybe lower credentials than a student up here who was denied. But that could have been depending on what major they were applying to. Perhaps the student up here was applying to a really competitive major at Northeastern, where this student might have been applying to, say, the arts and sciences, where they can accept more students. So there's a lot of factors that goes into it. But then it's kind of neat. You can think about where you might fall in on the scattergram and figure out whether or not this is a school that's maybe one of your reach schools and more competitive, or if it's a school that's more within your range. If you scroll up, it also shows you, unfortunately, we do not have our data from 2020. Just with the pandemic, we didn't collect it as accurately as we normally would. But you can see this is the data from 2015, 2016, 2017, how many applied, how many accepted. We have 5 who have applied this year and are still awaiting decisions because that's not filled in yet. So this just gives you a lot of good information. And then if you scroll down, it'll talk specifically about Northeastern, things that are required on your application. But again, I also always recommend checking that school's particular website. Courses they recommend that you have. West Boylston does a good job of making sure you have the courses recommended by colleges, things that are weighed in when it comes to applications, and it would list the deadlines, policies, and fees for applying to that particular school. So I think once you do like the super match and you narrow down some college choices, going on the scattergrams and kind of seeing where you stand in relation to other students from your high school that have applied is a good indication of whether this is a college that might be a reach school, a good match in terms of kind of you're right in that competitive range, or if it's more of a safety school. Just head back here. So those are the two tools that I generally use with students, especially for students that are just embarking on their search for what might be a good college. These seem to be 2 good ways to just kind of narrow down that list or get them thinking about schools they haven't thought about. Every student's different. Some students base it on the experience they're looking to get, like where they want to be living and if they want to be living on campus and student life and major. Some students are very major focused and just want the schools that have the best programs for what they're interested in studying. So it's very individualized, but these are the 2 things I would recommend, especially as a junior. Start doing these tools now, and it'll help you make a good list of colleges to apply to. So I do want to talk a little bit about how I use Naviance for the college admissions process. It can be a little confusing, I think, for seniors because we also want to make sure that you're utilizing the Common application. So I'm going to talk about both the Common App and Naviance. I'm not going to take you through the Common App today. That might be something we do more in the fall of your senior year, but I do want you to be familiar with that website, and it's probably a good idea to go ahead and register and create an account on the Common App. But just to talk a little bit about how that works. When you start getting ready to apply to colleges, you would use the Common Application. That's the platform that a student uses to apply to colleges. It's not the platform that I use to submit your documents to school. I submit your letters of recommendation, your transcript, a counselor recommendation, and a profile of our high school. You know, what in terms of the amount of AP courses we offer, how many students go on to college. Colleges like to know a little bit about the high school you're coming from and the experiences and opportunities you've had while you're there. So those are the things that I submit to the colleges you're applying to, and I do that through Naviance. I don't go on to Common Application. You as a student use your Common Application account to apply to schools. So this is definitely something as a junior you can do now just to get started and get on there and get familiar with how to use the website. So when it comes time to apply, it's not super new to you and you kind of understand what you're supposed to do. But here's the website to the Common App right here. I do think it is pretty easy to use, but it's a new platform. So it's good to kind of just create an account and get used to it. It's very important when you create your Common Application account that you use a non-school email address. Do not use your school email or else because you will not be able to get emails from the Common App to your school email. We have a filter at West Boylston, so that wouldn't be able to happen. So you want to use a personal email address so that there's any communication about your Common App, make sure that you receive it. For any colleges that you're requesting information from, use a personal email. Do not use your school account because you may risk not receiving those emails. It's important that you write your password down somewhere. This is one tip I give all juniors and seniors. Keep a little notebook or a thing on your phone with all your passwords because everything's electronic. So when you apply to a college, a lot of times they give you a username and password to a portal so you can check in on the status of your application, make sure they have everything they need from you, from the school. Sometimes that's how you find out your decision. So you don't want to lose passwords for any of these places. So you want to find a way to track that. Once you're on the Common Application, and something I'll talk to you about in the fall, you need to do something, or we recommend that you go ahead and waive your FERPA rights. FERPA is the educational act that means you have every right, like your health records, to access your educational records. You and your parents should be able to access your educational records, all of it at any time. For the purpose of college admissions, it's highly recommended that you waive that right when it comes to the admissions process. This way, colleges are not concerned that a student maybe doctored their transcript in some way or changed something in the letter of recommendation. Colleges want to make sure that they're getting the correct, accurate, valid information from schools. And that's why you don't actually send in your recommendations or your transcripts or any of that information. I do that. And I do that through Naviance. But so it's important that when you're on the Common App, that one of the first things you do is waive those rights. Once you waive those rights, you can then match your Common Application to Naviance. Pretty easy to do. There's a video right here. I'm not going to play it now, but that you can refer to. And I can also help you do that if you have trouble doing that. And then you can't match your Common App to Naviance until you've waived your FERPA rights. That's why I make a big deal about it. But once you match those, anytime you add a college to apply to on Common App, I'm notified on Naviance that you're applying to that college. So then I know that I need to start getting everything ready to send to that school. I do ask seniors to tell me personally when they're applying to a college. Just send me an email, stop in my office, let me know just in case. Don't rely on the fact that I get those notifications. Sometimes technology can make mistakes as well. But I do need to be able to see those colleges on Naviance, and the only way I can do that is if you match these two platforms. So again, these are things you can start doing now as a junior, even though you won't be using Common App as much until you're ready to actually apply to schools. I'm going to skip that video for now, but something you can refer to. I just set up this grid. I think it's helpful because I have found it's a little confusing for students what they use the Common App for and what we use Naviance for. Not every high school uses Naviance. but we do, which is great. So the common application for a student is really like one-stop shopping. On that common application, you'll be able to apply to most, if not all, of the colleges you're interested in. There are a few colleges that do not take the common app, so you have to apply directly through their website. But for the most part, it is accepted by most colleges. It's organized, manageable, really easy to use, and it's something that the student uses. I do not. So I don't know your passwords. I can't help you log in. You have to register for that on your own. But it's the avenue you would use to apply to most of your colleges. As far as teacher recommendations, that's all through Naviance. So the Common App will ask if you want to send something to a teacher for recommendation. You don't have to do that because that's what we use Naviance for. So you have the Common Application, that's how you apply to colleges. And it's good because you fill out all your demographic information, even your essay, all these things once, and then you can submit it to multiple colleges rather than having to go to each specific college website. So, as a counselor at West Boylston with Naviance, I use something called eDocs. And that's just the way that I send documentation to colleges that you're applying to. Naviance is also fairly easy to navigate for students as well as for me. And both the student and myself use Naviance, where only the student uses the Common App, I do not. Naviance can be used by students to research colleges, and it's used by me to send all your supporting documents. So in the fall, I'll show you how to request a teacher recommendation through Naviance, and your teachers all have accounts in Naviance, so they put the recommendation right onto that platform. And once it's there, I can send it off to the college. That's how I send your initial transcript. So if you're applying in the fall, colleges are getting your transcript all the way up to end of junior year. Then at the end of first semester, we can resend your mid-year transcripts. That would include that first semester from senior year. That's how I send the school profile. That's how I send my recommendation. So it's really important that these two platforms are working together and that you're able to match them. And if you have trouble with that, you just need to come see me and I can help you with that process. So some things to think about in getting ready for senior year. So again, like I said, this presentation is geared towards juniors, but if you're a freshman or sophomore watching this is good to know, good things to think about. So right now in junior year, this is a good time to attend college fairs and visit campuses, or maybe make a list of places you want to visit over the summer. Start thinking about which teachers you might ask for letters of recommendation. You can pick 2. Start thinking about your essays or your essay. So if you do go ahead and create an account on the Common App, you'll be able to see what the essay questions are on the Common Application that colleges are looking for. So you can start just brainstorming, or, if it's asking about a certain experience, thinking about something that might stand out. Certainly a lot of students have written about how COVID has affected them, but I think by the time that you're a senior applying to colleges, you might want to think outside that box even a little bit. You want to try to think about something that might catch an admissions counselor's eye. You want to think about registering for SAT and ACT scores, not scores, tests. I will say more and more colleges are going test optional. I would say this past year, almost every college was test optional, but some of those were only temporary during the pandemic, and they're starting to require SATs or ACTs again. So it's important to check your specific college. Even for a college that's test optional, depending on your score for the SAT, you still might want to submit it because it might be something that makes you stand out over another candidate. You can start researching scholarships. You don't have to start applying to them yet, but just knowing what's out there. And always certainly do a self-check on all your social media accounts. Once you start applying to colleges, admissions counselors will, they do Google students from time to time and check social media and see what's on there. And you don't want it to be something that would interfere with your possible acceptance to a college. So these are just things to start thinking about. The good news is if you're looking at this checklist as a junior right now, you're already on track. When you hold off on these things and start them in the fall, that's where you really start to feel overwhelmed, because at the same time as applying to colleges, you're trying to figure out scholarships, you're trying to narrow down that list, trying to register for tests. So it's really important to just start thinking about these things listed here now. As far as registering for SAT or ACT, the SAT you would do through the College Board website, and ACT you would do through the ACT website. So that really concludes my presentation. My goal really was to show you Naviance, how to log in, how to use several different tools and which ones I recommend. But definitely feel free to email me anytime, reach out to your counselor anytime. If you want to sit and kind of go through Naviance together, we can do that. Or if you just need help logging in, But certainly, if you are a junior, another hint I would give you is book an appointment with me early on in the fall, so you can help me start to understand the types of schools you're applying to and what you're thinking about, so I can make sure I get things prepared for you. The fall semester is really busy with students applying to a number of colleges. So the earlier you can book an appointment with me, I think the better for you. And it just makes sure that way I can follow up with you and we're staying on track and making sure schools are getting the documents that you need. In the fall, I will do an evening presentation again for senior students and their parents, as well as meeting with seniors during the school day to give a little bit more specifics about the actual nuts and bolts of applying to college. You know, the things that you really need to make sure you're doing. At this point, you're kind of in the fun stage of just searching and thinking about what might be a good fit for you.